It's all based on the life of one man. And tell me who and then why.
It's a sort of poetic biography of Harry Houdini, the escape artist and magician who lived at the turn of the last century, from 1874 to 1926. And I guess what I was trying to do with the book is I was sort of exploring my own family mythology through this sort of filter or metaphor. My family business on my father's side, going back to my great-grandfather, is a lock and safe shop. And so I grew up around keys and locks and this sort of thing. But every time as a young poet, I would try to write about these things. They always came out sounding very, very self-absorbed and solipsistic and very small. So I was trying to find some way to write about where I came from, the mythology that my family comes out of, without having to do so directly, which always seemed to diminish anything I wanted to say.
Isn't that kind of like the Brinks family writing about, oh, I don't know, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? I mean, the man's practically every locksmith's worst nightmare.
Or you can consider him sort of one of the greatest locksmiths to ever live.
Hadn't thought of it that way.
He was, he studied locks and all of the various kinds of locks that were out there in his day. With great intensity. He would hang around with locksmiths in every new city that he would tour in. On his off time during the days, he would go hang out with the locksmiths. He had an extraordinary gift for just seeing what a key should look like, just from fumbling around with the lock itself. And so he could select between whatever it was, 17 or 37 different kinds of skeleton key. Part of the art of being an escape artist was knowing which key to pick, because of course you can only take a few on stage, and they're hidden in various parts, crevices on your body and so forth. And part of the trick is knowing which key that you want to select in order to try to open this particular lock.
There's a poem number 15. I have you read it in a second. Tell me about that one.
Well, it's a list poem about keys. It's one of the earliest poems in the book, but really it's earliest in the sense that it's one of the first ones that I wrote.
That one I really got the sense of the family connection.
Yeah. Well, as a young boy, we used to go over to my father's shop after school, my brothers and I, and we'd have to wait for my father to finish working before he'd drive us home. And there was a big barrel of miscut keys, and he would dump it out on the floor, and we'd slowly put it back in and sift through, and we'd get to take home one key each. So we'd take home the coolest looking key that we could find. So, there's sort of all these sort of rich images of keys constantly returning to me as I was starting to deliberately mine my family mythology and the stories there. This particular poem is a love poem for Houdini's wife, Bess, who he met when he was 19 and he was 18, she was 17, and 3 weeks after they met, they were married, and they stayed married for Houdini's entire life. And she was the only person privy to all of the secrets that he had as a magician and an escape artist. 15. The stories keys could tell, still, of the rusted throats of cells, skeletal keys, and keys knuckled like fingers, keys harsh-voiced and stunned like a blaze of cold bells, copper keys, birch keys, keys reeking of mulch and wet moss, more the excellent French names of keys, all eager thigh, fluid, stamen, fumbling at locks themselves, the tongue another muscular key at his lips, slipping free, for he was careless, Bess, careless with such keys, keys to trunks, chests, desks, keys choked in his gut or wedged under nails, fang-toothed keys, and keys drowned in jars like small, dark snails. Consider the stubborn silences of these, what stories they could tell. Bess, even this band on his finger shines, a key.
Very good. Well, nicely done. Good first job.
Thank you.
I was impressed. The book is Anatomy of Keys. It's a collection of poems, one big long poem. What do you call that?
Well, I call it a series of poems or a sequence of poems. but it's been called a single long poem, poetic biography, a novel in verse. Everyone sort of slaps its own description onto it, but
The author is Stephen Price, and Anatomy of Keys is published by Brick Books.